Some macroeconomic identities. There are various macroeconomic identities and concepts related to national income measurement, including gross national product (GNP), net national product (NNP), national income (NI), personal income (PI), and personal disposable income (PDI). These identities help in understanding how income is distributed within an economy and how it is affected by various factors like depreciation, taxes, subsidies, and transfers. Gross national product, GNP. GNP represents the total economic output produced within a country, including income earned by domestic factors of production abroad minus income earned by foreign factors of production within the country. It is calculated as GDP plus net factor income from abroad. GNP equals GDP plus net factor income from abroad. Net national product, NNP. NNP is obtained by subtracting depreciation, wear and tear of capital, from GNP. Depreciation does not contribute to anyone's income, so it is deducted to obtain a more accurate measure of income. NNP equals GNP depreciation. National income, NI is NNP evaluated at market prices, taking into account indirect taxes and subsidies. It represents the income that accrues to factors of production within the country. Basics of macroeconomics 9. NI equals NNP at market prices, net indirect taxes, subsidies. Note: all these variables are evaluated at market prices. We get the value of NNP evaluated at market prices. But market price includes indirect taxes. When indirect taxes are imposed on goods and services, their prices go up. Indirect taxes accrue to the government. We have to deduct them from NNP evaluated at market prices in order to calculate the part of NNP that actually accrues to the factors of production. Similarly, there may be subsidies granted by the government on the prices of some commodities. In India, petrol is heavily taxed by the government, whereas cooking gas is subsidized. So we need to add subsidies to the NNP evaluated at market prices. The measure that we obtain by doing so is called net national product at factor cost or national income. Personal income, PI is the income received by households from NI. It is calculated by deducting undistributed profits, corporate tax, and net interest payments made by households and adding transfer payments received from the government and firms. National disposable income equals net national product at market prices plus other current transfers from the rest of the world. The idea behind national disposable income is that it gives an idea of what is the maximum amount of goods and services the domestic economy has at its disposal. Current transfers from the rest of the world include items such as gifts, aids, etc. Private income equals factor income from net domestic product accruing to the private sector plus national debt interest plus net factor income from abroad plus current transfers from government plus other net transfers from the rest of the world. NI, which is earned by the firms and government enterprises, a part of profit is not distributed among the factors of production. This is called undistributed profits up. The households receive transfer payments from the government and firms, pensions, scholarships, prizes, for example, which have to be added to calculate the personal income of the households. PI equals NI, undistributed profits, net interest payments made by households, corporate tax plus transfer payments to households. Personal disposable income, PDI. PDI is the income available to households after deducting personal tax payments, such as income tax, and non-tax payments, like fines, from PI. It represents the income that households have at their disposal for consumption or savings. PDI equals PI, personal tax payments, non-tax payments. Diagrammatic representation of the relations between these major macroeconomic variables. Nominal GDP. Nominal GDP is the total value of goods and services produced in an economy at current market prices. It does not account for changes in prices over time. For example, suppose a country only produces bread. In the year 2000, it had produced 100 units of bread. Price was 10 rupees per bread. GDP at current price was 1,000 rupees. In 2001, the same country produced 110 units of bread at price 15 rupees per bread. Therefore, nominal GDP in 2001 was Rs 1,650 equals 110 times 15 rupees. Real GDP in 2001 calculated at the price of the year 2000 will be called the base year, will be 110 times 10 rupees equals 1,100 rupees. 10 Basics of Macroeconomics. Real GDP. Real GDP is a measure of economic output that adjusts for changes in prices. It evaluates goods and services at constant, base year, prices, allowing for a comparison of production volumes across different years. Real GDP helps eliminate the impact of price changes, making it a useful tool for assessing actual changes in economic production. Real GDP equals nominal GDP / GDP deflator, asterisk 100. GDP deflator. The GDP deflator is an index that measures the average change in prices of all goods and services included in GDP over time. A GDP deflator of 150% implies that prices have increased by 50% compared to the base year. It is calculated as the ratio of nominal GDP to real GDP expressed as a percentage. GDP deflator equals nominal GDP / real GDP, asterisk 100. Consumer Price Index, CPI. The CPI measures changes in the prices of a fixed basket of goods and services typically purchased by a representative consumer. It quantifies the inflation experienced by consumers. CPI is expressed as a percentage change in prices from a base year. CPI equals cost of basket in current year / cost of basket in base year, asterisk 100. Wholesale Price Index, WPI. The WPI is an index that tracks changes in the prices of goods at the wholesale level. It is used to assess inflation in the early stages of production and distribution. In some countries, it may be referred to as the Producer Price Index, PPI. Here, notice that CPI may differ from the GDP deflator because the goods purchased by consumers do not represent all the goods which are produced in a country, whereas the GDP deflator takes into account all such goods and services. CPI includes prices of goods consumed by the representative consumer, hence it includes prices of imported goods, but the GDP deflator does not include prices of imported goods. The weights are constant in CPI, but they differ according to the production level of each good in the GDP deflator. GDP and welfare. Using gross domestic product (GDP) as a sole indicator of the welfare of a country's people has its limitations, and there are several reasons why GDP may not accurately reflect the overall well-being of a nation. Income distribution. GDP measures the total economic output of a country, but it does not provide information about how that output is distributed among its citizens. If GDP increases, but the gains are concentrated in the hands of a few individuals or entities, the majority of the population may not experience improved welfare. Unequal income distribution can lead to disparities in well-being. Non-monetary exchanges. Many valuable activities in an economy are not monetized or included in GDP calculations. For instance, domestic work performed at home, volunteer activities, and barter exchanges, where goods and services are directly swapped without money, are not typically accounted for in GDP. This omission can result in an underestimation of economic activity and well-being. Externalities. GDP does not consider externalities, which are unintended side effects of economic activities, which can be positive or negative. For example, a factory may contribute to GDP growth, but if it also pollutes a nearby river, causing harm to local communities and ecosystems, this harm is not reflected in GDP. Conversely, positive externalities, such as education and research, may enhance well-being but are not directly captured by GDP. Conclusion. Macroeconomics focuses on the study of aggregate economic variables and the interrelationships among different sectors of an economy. It emerged in response to the Great Depression of the 1930s, with John Maynard Keynes playing a significant role in its development. Macroeconomics views an economy as consisting of households, firms, government, and the external sector, all interacting in a circular flow. Methods for calculating aggregate income, including income, product, and expenditure approaches, have been discussed, along with various economic indicators like GDP, GNP, and price indices. However, it is essential to recognize that GDP alone may not accurately represent the overall welfare of a country, considering factors such as income distribution and externalities. Basics of Macroeconomics 11. Basic National Income Aggregates. 1. Gross domestic product at market prices, GDPMP. GDP is the market value of all final goods and services produced within a domestic territory of a country measured in a year. All production done by the national residents or the non-residents in a country gets included, regardless of whether that production is owned by a local company or foreign entity. Everything is valued at market prices. GDPMP equals C plus I plus G plus XM. 2. GDP at factor cost, GDPFC. GDP at factor cost is gross domestic product at market prices, less net product taxes. Market prices are the prices as paid by the consumers. Market prices also include product taxes and subsidies. The term factor cost refers to the prices of products as received by the producers. Thus, factor cost is equal to market prices minus net indirect taxes. GDP at factor cost measures the money value of output produced by the firms within the domestic boundaries of a country in a year. GDPFC equals GDPMP NIT. 3. Net domestic product at market prices, NDPMP. This measure allows policymakers to estimate how much the country has to spend just to maintain their current GDP. If the country is not able to replace the capital stock loss through depreciation, then GDP will fall. NDPMP equals GDPMP DEP. For NDP at factor cost, NDPFC. NDP at factor cost is the income earned by the factors in the form of wages, profits, rent, interest, etc., within the domestic territory of a country. NPFC equals NPMP, net product taxes, net production taxes. 5. Gross national product at market prices, GNPMP. GNPMP is the value of all the final goods and services that are produced by the normal residents of India and is measured at the market prices in a year. GNP refers to all the economic output produced by a nation's normal residents, whether they are located within the national boundary or abroad. Everything is valued at the market prices. GNPMP equals GDPMP plus N-FIA. 6. GNP at factor cost, GNPFC. GNP at factor cost measures the value of output received by the factors of production belonging to a country in a year. GNPFC equals GNPMP, net product taxes, net production taxes. 7. Net national product at market prices in NPMP. This is a measure of how much a country can consume in a given period of time. NNP measures output regardless of where that production has taken place in domestic territory or abroad. NNPMP equals GNPMP depreciation and NPMP equals NPMP plus N-FIA. 8. NNP at factor cost, NNPFC, or national income, NI. NNP at factor cost is the sum of income earned by all factors in the production in the form of wages, profits, rent and interest, etc., belonging to a country during a year. It is the national product and is not bound by production in the national boundaries. It is the net domestic factor income added with the net factor income from abroad. NI equals NNPMP, net product taxes, net production taxes equals NDPFC plus N-FIA equals NPFC. 9. GVA at market prices, GDP at market prices. 10. GVA at basic prices, GVAMP, net product taxes. 11. GVA at factor cost, GVA at basic prices, net. Economic players.